What is up guys, welcome back to another Dying Light 2 video. Today we are going to be looking at the different types of infected within Dying Light 2, and it does appear that we are getting a whole lot of new stuff, which is very exciting. Techland have said that Dying Light 2 is set 15 years after the event of Dying Light, and since then things have changed dramatically. Humans have changed the way that they survive, and so has the infected. Unfortunately, Techland have not confirmed the different types of infected that will be part of Dying Light 2. Hopefully this will be part of a Dying to Know episode, but with what they have released so far in terms of gameplay and trailers, there's actually been a lot of different types of infected that we can see in the background. So today we are going to be looking at the different types of mutations and evolutions that will be part of Dying Light 2. Before I do get into the video, if you want to see more Dying Light content from me, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Between now and the 7th of December, which is the release date of this game, there should be a lot of information being revealed. And if you do want to stay up to date, then all the latest news will be revealed here on this channel. Getting back into the video, there's already been a lot said about the evolution of the Dying Light world, how humans now live on the roofs of buildings and how wildlife has soon followed them. But on the other side of this, the infected has also evolved, bringing in new types of enemies for us to fight within the game. In this video, I'll be highlighting some of the monsters that I've already noticed whilst watching the gameplay and the trailers. Originally, within the first Dying Light, there were 13 different types of infected, and we should be expecting a very similar amount with Dying Light 2. Now, there won't be 13 different types of infected listed in this video, but we have already seen a lot of stuff that we've never seen the likes of before. So let's get straight into this. The first type of infected that we've seen, and it's also going to be the most boring, it is of course the normal infected. And if you were a Dying Light player, you would also know them as biters. Biters are victims of the Harran Virus who have been symptomatic for a long period of time, resulting in significant degradation of their bodies as well as major loss of movement, speed and coordination. They originally formed the majority of the infected throughout Harran within Dying Light, and we should expect the exact same thing with Dying Light 2. They have no special abilities, they are not strong, they're not too difficult to take down, but once you start getting a hold of them, and that's when things can get a bit overwhelming. With this type of infected, we are guaranteed to get a huge variation. They're not all going to be looking the exact same, but they will all have the exact same capabilities. We even noticed within the trailer that there is one of these monsters that have a gas tank, and it's likely with this type of infected, it is the exact same as the biters. It can do the exact same as what the other biters can do, the only difference is that it has a gas tank on the back. And presumably if you was to shoot that gas tank, it will explode. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be different to the other biters. But this type of infected is what you're going to see the most of. These are the easiest enemies, and this is what populates the world. Next up, we have also seen a much larger infected. In Dying Light, they were known as goons. This is a physically large and strong infected that towers at a roughly 8 feet tall. Goons carry a heavy weapon which is used to smash into the ground and swing at the player. Goons are much stronger than the regular infected, but are very slow at moving and lack the ability to climb objects and buildings. This is another one of those that we did see within the original Dying Light, and we did have to fight off. But we have already seen what seems to be something very similar. In many different situations, we've had what looks to be a large infected, which does stand around 8 feet tall, and they do have heavy weapons as part of their arm where they're able to hit other people and hit the ground. Exactly what goons were able to do. So this seems like it's another infected that will be carrying over from Dying Light all the way to Dying Light 2. Moving on from this, we next up have a toxic infected, or what I'm guessing is a toxic infected. Because with this, we haven't actually got anything to go on, and this indicates that it could be something completely new to Dying Light 2. Now there is a limited amount of information on this, as nothing has been revealed as of yet from Techland, and we do only see it for a brief moment, and it is only within the background. In the trailer, it takes a brief couple of seconds to talk about at night that the infected leave their nest, and this leaves the doors open for Aiden to explore inside. While stealthily moving about, we can see in the background an infected with green smoke emitting from the body. Aiden is traveling in a toxic environment to get loot, so we can assume that if the infected stayed in this toxic area for too long, they themselves will also have a toxic mutation. It looks like a normal biter with something a bit extra. I've been researching into Dying Light, I've also been playing it again, and I can't actually remember coming across anything like this. The closest that I can think of is Toad, who can spit acidic phlegm, or Bolter, who has a green glowing color but doesn't really attack the player. But when we do briefly see this in the trailer, it does look a lot smaller, and it's probably just a toxic or acidic mutation of a normal biter, but could lead to us having to take it down in a different type of style. It looks like if it is toxic or acidic, that maybe we can't get as close as what we could do with every other biter within the game. It should be interesting when Techland actually reveal more information about this type of infected. Very similar to this, we move to the next mutation. There seems to be a lot of fire mutations within the game, and this can also be broken into different variations just based around this fire mutation. So the first one that we see is very close up, and we can definitely see the fire mutation itself, but it also seems to be a bit more with an extra mutation where they're either growing a few extra limbs, or it could just be something else completely different growing out the back. When first seeing this, I immediately thought back to the volatiles within Dying Light. Volatiles are extremely fast, they can navigate through the dark at high speeds and can match the agility of the player, allowing them to scale obstacles and buildings in the exact same manner. They also have a special pounce attack that is very unlikely for low level players to escape from. And when looking at the back of this type of infected and comparing it to volatiles, they look very similar. And in the event that a volatile can see the player but is unable to reach them, they can use a very powerful spit attack. They often do this when the player is climbing. And later on in the trailer, we see this type of infected jump down and open its mouth up, and it does look like something where it's going to have spitting capabilities. So I can't help but read the description of this volatile and think that it's actually going to be a fire mutation of the same infected. It's already high up looking down, so I'm assuming it has good enough agility to climb up different places. The spikes out the back very look similar to the bones coming out the side of the volatiles. And of course we can see the fire mutation within inside, so if they are unable to spit fire, this infected is just going to be a massive disappointment. It looks a lot scarier and a lot tougher than it actually is. With all that said, I'm still yet to see one of these monsters spit fire within the trailers. The closest we get is what seems like a normal biter screamer with a fire mutation. The infected screams, but a lot of heat just comes out and not so much fire. They do look incredibly slow, they don't seem too tough, and I imagine if you were to fight this evolution whilst they're screaming at you, you'll become a bit disorientated with the amount of heat coming out of the scream. Very like what we have within Dying Light with the screamers. Whilst analysing the gameplay and the trailers that have been revealed, you can see in some situations in the background there is other types of fire mutations, but we are just way too far away for us to actually tell what it is. It does look like with Dying Light 2 that Techland are in love with this fire mutation, so we should be seeing a lot more of it. The next evolution that could be very interesting is those with multiple arms, legs, and even big hands. We do see a couple seconds of something, and I really don't know what to compare it with. With everything else that we've covered so far, I've tried to link it back to the original Dying Light and see where these different types infected can evolve from. But with this one, I'm actually not too sure. If you do have any ideas, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. This does look like a normal biter, except they have oversized hands. And I'm not sure whether or not this is just going to benefit this type of infected when it comes to climbing, or whether or not this is just how they're going to attack. It could just be a slightly different variation of a normal biter. They are very slow, they're not particularly amazing at climbing, but if you was to get hit with this type of variation, it's going to deal a lot more damage, as those hands look absolutely awful. We do only see this for a couple seconds as it is running, but we also notice that it does have a fire mutation just like what we talked previously. Yet again, reiterating that Techland seem to be very passionate about a fire mutation with Dying Light 2. And then the last thing to talk about and highlight is something very weird, and I think it could open the doors for something very interesting. For a few couple seconds within the Staying Human trailer, it does appear that an infected is somewhat opening up. I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but when looking at this originally, it doesn't look too special. It doesn't look too dangerous, and it doesn't look like it's going to cause a lot of harm just by itself. But as this infected spreads its arms, it does actually open up its chest and goes all the way up through his neck and up to his mouth. That is a massive gap, and the question is, why. Is this going to be an infected like Toad, which is going to be spitting some phlegm out at you? Or is it going to be something where we see potentially, and what I actually think is going to happen is something's going to come outside of it? Unfortunately, by the time we see anything actually pop out of this infected, it is too late because the trailer ends up cutting to the next lot of footage. So with this, we will just have to wait and see. But with the few seconds that we do see of this type of mutation, with everything that's around the neck and around the opening, I think it's opening up for something else to come out. It obviously can't be anything too massive, but there's definitely something about to pop out of this type of infected. And this is something that we have not seen within the original Dying Light, and this is a completely new variation. But anyway guys, these are the different types of infected that I have seen within the trailers so far. There is a lot out there, and some of it can come under different mutations of the stuff that we've already talked about in this video. So for example, with biters, there can be hundreds of different variations of those types of biters. We've seen infected wearing different types of clothing, some even having gas tanks on the back, some even being able to bring out spikes in their arms. All of these can come under the umbrella of a biter, but they just have slightly different stats, allowing them to do slightly different things, and not so much as a completely different type of infected. With all of that said, if you have been watching the trailers just like me and you've noticed something that I haven't said within this video, then feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. But anyway guys, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. But for now, I'm going, so see ya.